It's a group of ANC members are attempting to interdict the Gauteng provincial conference to stop it from going ahead. Apart from the big question of who will be taking that top spot as chairperson, there's also been calls for the outgoing provincial chairperson, David Makura, to be investigated. There's a lot to get through. Let's go to our reporter on the scene who has all the updates. Reporter Linda Kokle in Benoni, tracking all of it for us. Hello to you, Linda. So first of all, let's just start with this breaking news that we do have from that briefing a little while ago. David Makura saying that it has been confirmed, court papers served by one delegate. So we can now confirm that. Tell me what else was said about this.
Well, Gareth, I first must say that Premier David Makura, who is the chairperson of the ANC in the province, he is outgoing because of this conference that is taking place. But he's essentially come out here to acknowledge the fact that they are facing an interdict, an urgent interdict by one Jabulani Derek Sithole. We know that this is one of the members of the ANC that is basically unpleased with what is happening here. Some of the issues around what they are unpleased about is the fact that this conference is taking place when there is a region that is still having a number of votes that are quarantined, meaning that there cannot be a confirmation in terms of whether this particular leadership that is coming to this conference is in fact legitimate or not, because they would still need to resolve that particular dispute. But one of the things that we have been told yesterday was that before this particular conference has taken place, there was an NEC meeting that went from 7 p.m. to the early hours of the morning around 4 a.m. It was essentially to assess the status of readiness for this particular conference. They came to a conclusion that yes, this conference must go on. According to the provincial secretary, he said that the NEC decision was that this conference must be saved and it must continue. So already you see that there are some concerns going into this particular conference. Another thing that shows how much concern they are was that unlike any other conference that we've seen this year, provincial or regional, this particular conference has been given 3 days to conclude its business. So they started very early, expecting that there would be some of these issues. But essentially the second decision from the NEC, outside the fact that this particular conference must continue, was that they are handing back the matter of the quarantined votes within the region of Ekurhuleni to the PEC, not the current PEC, but to the incoming PEC that will be elected at this conference to deal with those issues. And before they are dealt with, there are going to be more quarantined votes within this conference that are coming from the region of Ekurhuleni. Now, some of the questions we've put to Pulemabe as well as Mr. Manana earlier on, who is from the Disputes Resolution Committee within the NEC, was essentially speaking around the fact that they came with a problem to this particular conference. There is another problem of saying that they need to have these delegates that are currently going in plenary to say that they must accept that there will once again be a decision with quarantined votes that will be from the region of Ekurhuleni. So it is a bit of a situation, it is a bit of an issue. As much as Ulemabe said that Arina Butata, we do not have problems, I can tell you that they certainly do have problems, because we spoke to some delegates that are coming from the region of Ekurhuleni, some of them who did not want to speak on camera, but they're essentially saying that there is no ways that they'll allow the adoption of credentials in a manner where they will not be counted in terms of their votes for their preferred candidates. So there is that impending situation that they need to deal with, which is the adoption of credentials. But Pulemabe as well as Manana are basically saying that they've dealt with disputes, they've dealt with the issue of urgent interdicts, and what they are telling us is that as much as they have been able to win most of those, they today will be able to triumph over this one as well. So that is the issue at this stage. There is an urgent interdict. They are saying their legal team is in fact dealing with that, and they are hopeful that they will not be in fact told to stop this particular conference. And they are saying that if they win over that one, then their next task will be to convince the voters inside there to vote, to adopt credentials, and in fact have another set of votes to be quarantined. So it's a very complex situation that they need to deal with. But they came out here to basically present a strong front, saying that they do not have problems. This conference will continue despite all of these issues still outstanding and still at play.
Yeah, it seems to be a case of there's no problems in the ANC, or there are, depending on who you ask at a certain time. Linda, just also talk to me about those delegates that are behind you. I see there's one security checkpoint and a lot of delegates trying to go in. Now, that's important, of course, because questions also asked about bogus delegates. Tell me what the response was to the bogus delegates.
Well, we've received some rumors about the fact that they are bogus delegates. In fact, they were confirmed by David Makura, who is the chairperson of the province of Gauteng, essentially saying that they've had to vigorously work in terms of some of those issues. They have detected that there are people that were in conference that are voting delegates, but that were not supposed to be voting delegates. In fact, you see that there is a breach in terms of the security checks, because they are saying that they even had to go to some of these accommodations that they've booked for their delegates in terms of checking some of those issues, essentially telling us that there are those that have been detected to have accreditation that is not necessarily legal as far as this conference is concerned. They are saying that they've bolstered security in terms of checking some of the accreditations here. I can tell you that late last night what we saw was another issue of saying that when you go inside, like you are seeing some of those delegates go inside, there's a blue sort of light that is shown upon some of the accreditations here to check whether there is that stamp of authority that can only be seen by some of those lights and equipment that they are using. So there's certainly a bolstering in terms of the security here, but it is in the midst of saying that we've received photos, we've received some information that there are delegates who are not supposed to be there. There are non-delegates, in fact, who have bogus, accreditation, and that is why it's taking so long to check some of those things. You are seeing a queue just outside the plenary, outside the conference venue, where some delegates are entering here to continue with some of the things that are on the program. But essentially, there are delegates that have been inside, that have had accreditation that has not been from this particular process, and security now has been bolstered to check each and every delegate in terms of when they enter there. It is a vigorous activity that they've had to deal with, including going to some of their accommodations that they've provided for these delegates to check on the list of people that are there and whether or not they are voting delegates. So it's a process that is showing you that as much as there are some improvements in terms of issues of saying that branches must be accredited by this new system, that there is in fact tight security, there is also the issue of saying that some old tricks that people are employing to try and influence the outcome of the provincial conference are still there. So they are dealing with those things. But again, Gareth, it's a matter of saying that the ANC has come out here, they've presented a sort of confident front, but I can tell you that on the back of their minds, on the back of each of those people's mind, is the fact that there are problems they need to deal with, and they may affect this particular conference, whether it goes on or not. One of them, of course, is before the courts, that urgent interdiction by one of the members.
Yeah, and we wait to see what comes of that urgent interdict as well. Linda Cooklick, Ulu, thank you very much. As the warmth of the sun begins to set in Benoni, the heat of local ANC politics is going to keep all of those delegates warm late into the evening. We'll go back to